Yes, this is John G. Sutton, and welcome to Tales from the Jails. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about a subject that is mentioned every time people think about going to prison. One of the things they do tell you, first thing they tell you when you go to prison is, you got it, don't drop the soap. Well, on the subject of don't drop the soap, my experience working in the prisons over a period of extended many years is that most male rapes occurred behind the doors, certainly not in the shower unit. I mean, they might very well take a shine to you in the shower unit, but not grab you in the shower unit. Plenty fights in the shower unit, but I didn't actually witness or receive any complaints about anybody being sexually molested in there. I certainly did receive complaints from prisoners who had been sexually molested. And I'll tell you something, it's very strange, the people who were conducting this kind of behaviour, not what you'd think. Because there is a thing in prisons that's called institutional homosexuality. Now, if people are that way inclined, then so be it. Not for me to comment, it's not my idea of fun, but if that's what people are orientated in that way, then so be it, let them proceed. Just so long as they leave me out, you know. And I'm not protesting too much, you know. I'm just telling you the truth. But there are people in there who are aggressively alpha male, actively violent homosexuals. And what they were doing was selecting their victims and taking them into cells and physically raping them. Not all the time, just as it occurred to them so to do. I was a hospital officer at Strangeways, and one inmate came down. He was absolutely devastated. He'd been raped by his cellmate, he said, and he'd been viciously raped. And this man had a heavily built man, you know, big, strong, heavily built man had raped this inmate and seriously damaged him. And when I say damaged him, inflicted injuries. We had to get him to an external hospital because he required to be medically treated beyond what we could normally do in the day-to-day running of the prison hospital. So he was taken to, I think it was Salford Royal Hospital, where he was medically corrected. You know, they had to surgically repair his rectum, which had been seriously damaged by his cellmate. And he told me what had happened, because I sat him down and said, listen, son, don't worry, you'll get through this. And it may be a bit of a trouble now, but we'll get you to hospital, which we did. It took a little time, you know, because you've got to get an ambulance to take him there, because he was seriously injured. But in the meantime, you've got to absolutely empathise, and well, as best you can, to get him to see that this isn't going to be the be all and end all. It's not the defining point in his life. He's got to get through this. But he told me what had happened, that his cellmate had put the chair behind the door so that nobody could come in. You know, he blocked the door off, effectively barricaded him into the cell with him. And then he'd physically molested him, tore his clothes off, and the full procedure. You don't need me to spell it out graphically, the full procedure. And then the disgraceful, disgusting part is that to hide the evidence, he'd forced this man to defecate into newspaper to remove all traces of his misdeeds, and threw the newspaper in a ship parcel out of the window so that he would have he would deny that he did it, and there wouldn't be any traces of semen to detect that he had actually done this. But of course, he had done it, and he was subsequently charged, not by the prison, because it was beyond the governor can only sentence you to certain amounts. The prison 1952 Prison Act limits the powers of the governor, who has the powers of a magistrate, but may not extend it beyond. This man was going to get some serious time for this, so it transpired that he was taken to court and subsequently convicted of this criminal offence. I mean, don't forget, I mean, if people are of that way inclined and they're sentenced to imprisonment, to a certain extent, it's like taking somebody who is addicted to chocolate and boiled sweets and imprisoning them in a sweetie shop. You know, so they've got their pick of all the inmates. You've got to be aware of this, and as one of the staff, you've got to be aware of the inmates that are vulnerable. I mean, I was working at Wormwood Scrubs, and an inmate who'd only just been sentenced to imprisonment, I think he was doing about 3 years or something like that, came up to me on the landing. It was C2 landing, and he said, hey, boss, you know, because they call you boss or gov, you know, how much is it for a blowjob in prison? I mean, why ask me? I mean, I don't know. I mean, but he did, you know. So I said, absolutely, because I had no idea, you know. I said, I've no idea. I said, ask the red bands, you know, something like that, you know. I said, what are you thinking of setting yourself up? Oh, no, he said, I want to buy one. Seriously, he was going to pay somebody, yeah, to suck his dick. Yeah, well, I mean, anyway, that's, I believe, what he had in mind, yeah. It's a strange world, you know, prison. But male rapes, they do happen. And the people who are conducting them, as I said, you would be surprised. Big alpha males, gangsters, people doing like 10, 15 years. They call it institutional homosexuality. So they're dead straight on the out. And they'll have the dolly birds on the out. But on the inside, they take the pick of the young boys. I think you call them chickens or something like that. But it's a disgraceful thing. And the problem is the embarrassment of actually being sexually assaulted by your cellmate or another man. It's going to be playing on your mind, and you don't report it. So there's a lot more of this happening than it is discussed by the staff, because they're not, the prisoners actually hide away from this, which I'm sure, you know, you would understand, you know, if you're subjected to this. And the thing is, these people who are conducting the rapes, you know, they are, generally speaking, big, strong men. I mean, obviously, they are have a high sex drive, and there's no outlet, yeah, in the prisons. So what they're doing is just picking the younger, perhaps slightly more effeminate looking inmates and deciding that they would exploit them and abuse them. And the problem was, of course, we got members of, I mean, this practice is not restricted to inmates. Staff as well were indulging themselves in this practice. As I said, I, on a number of occasions, discovered staff that were indulging themselves in this way, and absolutely intervened and reported them. The problem that you got was you're out of line, you see. You go to the chief officer, go to the governor, report this. Oh, what are you doing here? Who's told you to investigate staff? You're not here to investigate staff. You're there to get on with your job now. get out of my office and get on with your job. That kind of nonsense, you know. Makes me wonder, you know, somebody providing them with services that we don't know about. Anyway, that's one of the problems that we had with male rape in prison. Don't drop the soap. I hope you've enjoyed this little rather dark encounter I've brought to you today. It's John G. Sutton, Tales from the Jails. Read my book, Psychic Screw. It's on Amazon. It's all in there.